Welcome to the Learning Lab. I'm your host, Brian Clason, and in this episode, we're going to explore how artificial intelligence is entering the school safety arena. Joining us for this episode is Waco ISD Superintendent Susan Kincannon. Welcome.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here today.
And Waco ISD Chief Technology Officer Jerry Allen. Welcome.
Yeah, thank you. Happy to be here.
Yeah, absolutely. Before we get started, tell me a little bit about Waco ISD, where it's located, population, and just, what's going on right now with Waco.
Sure. Waco ISD is located on I-35, just south of Dallas, of course, north of Austin, heart of Central Texas. And we have about 13,600 students, about 90% economically disadvantaged, about 60% Hispanic. Population about 28% African American.
Okay. How many campuses?
We have about 25 campuses.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
In doing my research for this episode, and really trying to find where is artificial intelligence in the safety school space just nationally, I came across a handful of districts here in Texas that have adopted artificial intelligence. But I think Waco ISD has a really unique story that I discovered after watching some news clips about some safety issues that you guys had early this year and late in 2022. In September, I believe, if I get it wrong, correct me.
Mm-hmm.
In my research, I found that there was an active shooter hoax at the high school in September of last year. Walk me through what happened and just what that revealed for you guys and that impact on the community.
Sure, I'll start. We had one of the first shooter hoaxes that occurred last fall in the fall of 22. There was a call that was placed to the city of Waco that there was an active shooter at Waco High School. I was actually at the Holdsworth Center in Austin that day when the call came in from my staff. But we had an immediate response from local law enforcement, an incredible response, very impressive. And we pretty much were able to identify that there wasn't a shooting, but we had to work through the process of checking every classroom, and we did go ahead and evacuate the school building as we did that to a nearby location. So it was a very tense situation. I was focused with my staff working on communications to parents, making sure that they knew that the kids were safe and where we were in the process. And that piece I thought we handled really well. I think the reunification process is where we really could have improved and where we stumbled a little bit. And I also think that we were so busy focused on external communications that we didn't do enough with our teachers inside the building to communicate to them. Okay. So there were lessons to be learned, but all in all, things went very smoothly considering the situation.
What was the community's response? So that internal piece sounds like you handled it well. In my research, I think the media coverage even noted like how quick the police responded, how fast the district responded. So it sounds like you guys were really well put together in that situation. But what was that impact on you guys in the community? That fear piece, that what's next, what do we do, how do we prevent this? Was there a conversation around that?
Sure, we actually we had the community is always nervous when something like this happens. Parents are always nervous.
Yeah.
And so we really worked hard to communicate that the kids were safe. And then aside from that, we focused on our partnerships with the community, with local law enforcement and EMS. And so we had a really good debrief meeting with all of the community partners who would have been assisting us, who did assist us and who would have been assisting us. And there were things that happened that we didn't even realize were happening. Hospitals were mobilizing and preparing in the event that it was actually an active shooter situation. And so it was really a good, sadly, it shouldn't have happened, and it was hard on us. It was a really hard day, but it was a good opportunity for us to practice with each other and then to shore up some things that we needed to shore up.
Yeah.
I love hearing that you guys conducted an after-action review. Here at the Safety Center, we absolutely love that idea for emergency planning, responding, right, and just learning about what you do well and what you don't do well so you could close those gaps, right?
Yes.
Yeah, finding those gaps were crucial in making sure that we had a good roadmap to go forward
Yeah.
and what we needed to do.
Yeah, absolutely. So fast forward, I think 4 or 5 months into early 2023, we get into some more tense situations here. There's a weapon found at a gun on the high school campus, and then in my research, I'm not sure. I think there's maybe 3 more guns found. I don't know the timeline or if those were all separate events. Could you walk us through those situations, forever, how many there were? Because that's like, it's not a hoax now, right? Like there's actually weapons on campus. Talk to me about that.
COVID really disrupted our students, and so we were struggling with just student behavior in general coming back from the pandemic.
Mm-hmm.
And we, kind of on the heels of the hoax and going into the spring, we had several incidences of prohibited items. We did have 4 guns.
Wow. Okay.
And so we were very nervous about that. And, I've been doing this a long time as a superintendent. And, sometimes you do have a gun on a campus and it's pretty isolated. But to have 4
Yeah.
in a spring semester was really concerning to us.
Were those 4 different events? Was there some type of sweep or search you did and you found them all at one time? Or were
No,
these just 4 different incidences?
they were all different incidences.
Okay.
A student coming onto campus was one. The last one was a student who had one in his backpack, and a staff could kind of see what they thought was the shape of a weapon.
Okay.
And so they just kind of hugged him, and actually there was a weapon in the backpack. So they were all different.
Okay. So, I mean, the fact that y'all found them, right, tells me that there's some level of foundation of infrastructure here around safety and security that you have, right?
Correct.
But obviously there's room for enhancement here. Before we get into those enhancements that you made, where's the community at now? Are you hearing from your board, your students, your staff, your community organizations? What did that look like? Because I'm sure at this point, the heels of Uvalde, not that long earlier, pretty tense, right? Just as a state and nationally around,
It was
just
very
gun violence.
tense.
Yeah.
We had my board members were worried and concerned, and also I had parents began to email and very nervous. Teachers were pretty rattled.
Yeah.
At the same time, teachers were really wanting something, metal detectors or clear backpacks.
Yeah.
They just were extremely nervous given the number of incidents that we had in that spring.
Sure.
Students as well. Students were
Good point.
They were just really, really bothered by the whole incident. The accumulation of all the incidences that had occurred had just really rattled them.
Yeah.
So they were looking for something to happen.
Yeah.
And they were looking for some kind of response from us as a district as to what we were going to do.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
And that's great. I love that you guys bring up the students said something, right? Like that's what we're here for, right?
Yeah.
So I'm glad that they had voice in that. So let's walk through some of those, or let's walk through everything that you guys did to enhance security. I know you had mentioned clear backpacks and metal detectors. I think at a national level, putting my principal hat on, we've had discussions about that when I was an assistant principal and principal, and it can be a polarizing discussion, right, of what does it really look like to have metal detectors or clear backpacks? Does that feel like, a police state or, too much for the school community? So walk me through what you guys chose to do and what that impact was. How did people feel about that?
So we had been really focused on safety for a while. In fact, I have regular safety meetings with my team and my police chief every week, just to diagnose problems. And so I had been visiting with our leadership team about just security cameras and just ongoing efforts to make sure that we were doing everything that we could do. And we had actually Even before we had all of those incidences, we had a consultant come in and really walk us through some of the newest technology, which
great.
included AI for security. And we just really weren't sure.
weren't there
There
yet.
was just this feeling that perhaps the technology wasn't quite there to go with that. And then we weren't to the point of wanting to implement traditional metal detectors just because of that stigma that goes the historical stigma that goes with having metal detectors in schools,
especially where we've seen other districts across the country have maybe overused it or have used it in a way that's not community focused or relationship building, right?
And so it was so we were just exploring ideas at that point, and Jerry was really instrumental in that. Do you want to add anything to that?
I was just, going to say that the metal detectors, we had used that at our DAP, every day, but we hadn't done that in our schools. As a way, as a single point of entry, for the students to come in. So moving to that type of situation where the kids were all funneling through metal detectors was scary for us as a leadership team, and then also. The schools were kind of like, you mentioned a police state. I mean, it's still that stigma of a police state.
Sure.
But I think once we started looking at the different iterations of enhanced safety for the students, starting with, going and venturing out and looking at different districts and seeing what they're doing as well.
Great,
starting with the clear backpacks and then moving on to some of those things. The metal detectors weren't as big of a stigma. They were kind of wanted by the students.
Great. Okay.
I think the students and the teachers and the community, I think, wanted us to do something, and so this was a easy way. It just was a slow way of getting the students into the building.
Well, I think for me it was I had to overcome my own fears of the perception of a school with a metal detector, and I say that I really did feel that way. And so it wasn't until I contacted a fellow superintendent friend in the Houston area and said, "Okay, we're having these prohibited items. I'm really nervous about moving to metal detectors. Talk to me about that." And she said, "Oh my gosh, get over yourself. You just do it, and it's okay." And so that empowered me to just say, "Okay, we're doing this."
Okay.
And then, then we evolved into the artificial intelligence through exploration, and Jerry can address that. But we did it, and then and I was worried about that. I was worried about telling parents that we're going to have metal detectors and. Telling students, but what we found was that everyone was relieved, that they needed that sense of security because there was so much fear that something could happen. And so it was relatively easy from that point on. It was just making that initial decision to do it.
And that's great to hear. It sounds like a logistical nightmare if I'm thinking about it. A single point of entry, metal detector, right? Like the time suck, right? I mean, we have minutes that we have to make sure the kids have, right, with the state, making sure they're going to class on time. Like, was there issues with the metal detector and the single point of entry?
Yeah,
what did that look like?
the metal detectors and that technology has been around for a long time, and so. And it's great, except that the different sensitivities on the metal detectors will pick up different things. So even if a key, if you've got keys or a phone on you, it may set off the alarm. Well, then you're taking the student over to the side and you're doing an initial search for something, and then you're saying, okay, go to class. Well, that's what kind of made us think. We're slowing down the process of getting to school. If we're funneling all the kids through one single point, and we, especially like at a Waco High School where we've got 2,000 kids, we're trying to funnel through two metal detectors. Well, it's huge. The amount of time you could be 30 minutes late the first period, and that wasn't acceptable to us.
Okay.
So that's when we started looking at, are there ways for us to get in faster without bringing in more of the older type of technology? Could we do something new that would help us find these prohibited items or let us get kids going through faster?
Perfect. And so that's a perfect segue. That's where I was going with this. So I hear it's the logistical time suck, right? How can we do this in a more efficient way? So walk me through that process. Like, who did you find? How did you find them? What was your research and your homework to figure out that artificial intelligence is an option for you?
Yeah, I'll start and let Jerry add to it. We, the first thing we heard was we'll need a bunch of staff to be able to pull this off. We don't have money to add staff to do it. So we decided to take some of our high school staff to visit the schools in Houston that were using just traditional metal detectors and just to see what their processes were. So that was a good move because it allowed our staff to see that it can be done with the staff that you have, and also reassured them that they could do it.
Yeah.
And then once we decided to move to artificial intelligence, then we went and had them visit a school that was using an AI system.
Okay.
Yeah,
here in Texas.
Here in Texas, yes.
It's a district a little bit further south than we are, and they had put some into their high schools, and we went down and looked at them, and the way
they had just done it, and we had picked up a principal from their district who had used the technology.
And he was impressed with it, and so that made me start thinking, okay, so let's start kind of looking at that. And we got down there, and it was so impressive the way that they had it lined out. And the actual company that we use kind of gives you some systems that are best practices for that. But the system, once you put the system in place, it no longer, it only picks up prohibited items.
Gotcha.
It doesn't pick, and it shows you where on the person that it is versus you having to search the entire person.
Right.
But it allowed us to get like 800 kids in 20 minutes.
Oh, wow. Okay.
I mean, so we were able to just fly through the kids versus what we were doing before. We ran a trial of it for 2 weeks at our high school at the end of the year last year, and it worked so well that we were just like, okay, we got to do this.
We got to do this.
Yeah.
So who did you guys go with, and tell me a bit about that relationship with that organization that provides this?
Well, we went with Evolve Technologies, and we had looked at a bunch of different types of AI that's out there. There's a couple of different companies that layer on top of your physical security, your cameras and stuff like that can add AI to your physical security. But we wanted something to get our kids in the school faster. And at the same time provide that feeling of comfort and safety for the students so that they can learn without fear. And so Evolve was great for us. They like I said, they allowed us to use their product for 2 weeks and just let us see what it looked like in a school. And then we worked with one of our existing security vendors to actually make the purchase, and they do the maintenance on it. And they provided them with the training and tools to do a maintenance contract for us. So if something happens, they come in and they fix it for us.
Great.
So
how are you alerted to, so when you have the metal detectors, there's that sound it makes, right? So you're like physically alerted. There's someone right then and there that can do the search. How are you alerted with the AI? Does that look different?
There's 2 tablets that are on stands, and so you have 2 people manning them. And then when the students walk through the actual system, and it doesn't look like a typical metal detector. It looks like something like 2 poles.
Oh, okay.
And so when you just walk through it, it takes a picture of every student that walks through, and if they have some type of prohibited item, it'll put a red box on their body somewhere, or even in their backpack, as to where that prohibited item may be.
Oh, okay.
And it's looking for, heavy concentrations of metal or cylindrical items that could be something that used for mass destruction.
Yeah, okay.
So it gives us that point of contact where we're like, okay, all right, have a good day, and then, oh, hey, Johnny, you got to come over here real quick. Let's take a look at what's showing up on the screen, and it shows you a picture, and you don't clear that picture until you've cleared that student.
Oh, okay.
So it just makes it go so much quicker.
Okay.
So
I'm sure people who are gonna watch this episode will be like, "That's great. You got the buy-in. You built this relationship with an AI company, but what's the cost? Is it doable? And now, I'm not asking you to throw out all your spreadsheets here, but what was that conversation like? Like, can we afford this? Is this doable?
Yeah,
Waco must have a bunch of money to do this. Like, and that's the story, right? We all want to try something, but money, it always comes down to that available money, right, for a district.
It was a have to do for us.
Okay.
And we felt like it was the right time and we needed to invest in it. Jerry can speak to the exact cost. I'll tell you they're expensive, and we need some more because we could really only afford to do the one evolved system at each of the high schools and the middle schools, but we need more. So we have some traditional at other entry points of those schools, but it would be nice to have at least one more system at each of those campuses.
Okay. Yeah, they offer a dual lane and a single lane, and what we found. What we could afford to start with was the single lane.
Okay.
And they're not cheap by any means. It's relatively new technology, so it's going to, the technology and inexpensive aren't two words that usually go together.
Sure.
Right. So, but it was a little over $100,000 per school.
Okay.
So, but at that point, the feeling of safety and the feeling of security and the relief it gave to our community and the buy-in that we had from the students and the staff and the administration, you can't quantify that with dollars. I think our students are in a better place to be able to learn without fear.
I think it also it was like a trigger for our students to go, oh, we got to get in line, right?
Yeah.
I mean, there was a noticeable difference in the student body. Like, they're serious, and we need to straighten up. And
So even some of our
it had an impact definitely on culture.
Even some of our heavy hitters with discipline came up to me and wanted to know more about the device, and they were like, "Cool, this is really cool."
You got the cool factor going on, right?
And so, but they were really interested in it, and the other great thing is that when you're lining people up in a single point of entry, you got to have a lot of trash cans. What we found outside, because they were tossing items left and right before they got into the school.
Okay.
And so it was just littered on the ground with different things that they thought were going to get caught by it.
Like
and vapes and little pocket knives and all kinds of stuff were all over the ground. So we would come up there after everybody was in, and we'd just scoop it all up and throw it all away. And then the kids got used to just not bringing it.
Okay. Well, so unintended.
Just a real disruption, right?
Yeah. That's so cool.
Things that we needed to work on, and then I think another benefit was just that for the staff was, being right there to greet students in the morning. So that was a nice outcome of it as well. Is that now there is someone right there at the door greeting kids as soon as they come in.
Yeah. And it's an opportunity to not let it be a negative stigma, right?
Right.
It's a opportunity as opposed to a disciplinary measure, like a consequence of our situation, right? Yeah, that's great. I love that.
Yeah. I had some conversations with my student advisory committee in the spring as well, and they were very appreciative of the metal detectors or the AI, and they just felt more secure.
Okay.
And they were very grateful that we had done something.
Yeah, cool.
And the staff as well.
Now, this is just my old principal curiosity. Did you guys ever go through the stuff that they were throwing out just to get an idea of like how many vapes were there, how many knives? Was there any drugs?
We didn't take a physical count.
No, you're just
but we just kind of looked, and as we were picking things up, I was like, "Oh, this is nice," So, but yeah, it was, and there was a lot of it, and which made me think. I wonder how much we had missed before, with just metal detectors and using a wand. Because when you walk through a traditional metal detector, you got to have a wand afterwards to find exactly where it is on the body.
Right.
Well, this shows you a picture of it and where it is. So you don't have to have that second layer of another piece of equipment that could have faltered.
Sure.
Yeah.
So I feel like this question might not fit now because it sounds like it just is this really great product that you guys have adopted, and there's been a lot of wins. Was there any skepticism from anyone as you're having these conversations about adopting AI? Maybe folks that aren't your early adopters, people who aren't tech savvy, are like, this sounds crazy,
We
too
didn't
much
have
money.
any pushback.
Okay.
In fact, I think my board was extremely pleased
Okay.
that we didn't use the traditional,
okay.
we didn't go the traditional route, that we really were innovative in using the artificial intelligence because it's less intrusive on the students. And they didn't want the students to have that stigma either.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I think it was really positive.
And I'll
Right.
add on to that is it doesn't look like the traditional metal detectors. So you don't even really know you're walking through it as much as it just looks it's nice, neat little, two poles that are on the side. There's nothing over the top of it or anything, and it just kind of snaps a picture, and you got it looks fancy, like you're walking into a stadium,
That's cool.
But
Yeah.
and it's been really, really beneficial for us. I think so. There's more things to come, obviously, more iterations of they will, pardon the pun, but they will evolve, and be even more beneficial for us.
Yeah. So let's talk about the leadership that it takes to have this vision to implement something like this. Essentially, you guys are early adopters for the most part, if you look at it statewide or nationally. Susan, talk to me about the role Jerry has played, like that tech person, that tech leader for your district. Could you have done this without your chief technology officer?
No, absolutely not. Jerry's really innovative in all areas of running his department and helping us move forward. But it definitely took leadership on his part to get us there, to work with the vendor, to go out and visit school districts to make sure that he understood what the product was, how to operate it, getting it set up, training the staff. It was huge for us, and I'm really grateful for his leadership.
All right.
In that regard.
Good job.
Yes.
I think what we find, like conversations I have with districts across the state when we talk about digital threat assessment and school behavioral threat assessment, is that our tech person is left out of the combo, whether it's the campus tech person or the district leader for technology. And when it does come to a threat of violence, an actual act of violence, even a hoax, there's going to be some level of digital assessment, right? Looking at your network, if kids have, one-to-one devices or laptop carts, you need to search those things, right? For we call the dots, those objective pieces that help us paint that picture of if we have a student that's on the pathway to violence. And so many times we see that chief tech person that's not part of the conversation, but they truly drive a big part of that threat assessment. So
Absolutely.
I think that's a vibe I got when I was doing my homework on y'all, that you seem really involved in the process.
Yeah, it's it's a passion of mine. I've been doing physical security for a long time. I've always thought that cameras are evidence. So they, unless you're having someone sit there and watch them all the time, they're really basically just evidence based. And card access is great for accessing the schools, but how can we help the students get there and feel comfortable as well? And then the whole technology piece has evolved with security. The silent panic alarm technology grants that have come out. We actually just moved to another platform for visitor management and at the same time emergency management and silent panic alarm, which is the Raptor technology with Raptor Alert. So every teacher now has it on their phone where they can hit a button and call for help, and which is something that has previously been left up to a phone. Dialing for help, but now they can hit the button. It alerts the principal. The principal can, administration can get down there and help them. Just having, been an administrator myself, knowing what they need in cases of emergency, it helps to have more adults involved in those situations.
And I love that you speak about all those things in the same sentence. So many times we talk to districts that, panic button, your emergency operation plan, threat assessment, visitor management. No, those all things like they all blend together, right?
Everything
They're all
goes.
part of your infrastructure. It's one posture, right?
Right.
Yeah. Okay. Great. Um, so artificial intelligence in school safety, fairly new. I want to say it's super new, but it's fairly new, especially for Texas. What are the hiccups that you're still experiencing that you're working through? Is there an iteration that you're in where you're like, we're here right now, we have this gap, this is where we want to be next school year?
Yeah, so I spoke to the need for more entry points into the building with the evolved systems. I think we want to continue to explore additional layers of AI for our buildings, and that's kind of where we started with that consultant too. We didn't necessarily start with just looking at entry points. We started within the internal hallways and are there systems that detect weapons and what else can we use, what else could help us and enhance our safety. So I think that, and then another big piece for me that causes me to worry is just making sure that we're consistent with our staff, because students, we do have some students who are trying to find ways around around the middle, going through the evolved systems. And also we have staff that let their guard down too.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
And they get busy and they, if they're not there and the student doesn't go through the system, but they go around, then
you're modeling behavior
it's
for our
not
kids,
effective. Right. So, is there a way for that to be a seamless part of the building so that there aren't ways that you can get around the system? And so those are things that keep you thinking about how to continue to improve.
Yeah, and I there are ways that you can use your existing systems that you have and add layers onto those, like our security cameras. I talked about them being evidenced. How can we move those from evidence to reality and helping us, with triggers that, if an event is happening, how can our cameras alert us? And there's AI out there right now, and we've been in talks with another district south of us has started using some stuff on their cameras, and we've been talking with the same company, Spark Cognition.
We're actually doing a part 2 episode in January, and we'll be focusing. It might be the same district.
Yeah, probably is.
Okay.
Yeah, and those are the types of things, like we can control them while they're walking into the school and what that looks like. But what if someone was to throw a weapon over the fence and then walk in through the single point of entry and be fine, and then walk over to the fence and pick up the
Sure.
evidence. So what we want to do is have create like a geofence with the cameras. And if something is prohibited or if there's a fight going on, the AI can detect so many different types of things. If a teacher falls, it can say,
open
hey,
doors.
Anything like that. It can trigger an alert being sent as a text message or as through a system through to our administration and alert them that there's an issue that we need to investigate. Or if it can even recognize license plates. So if somebody's coming on campus that's not supposed to be there, then it can give us that information. That's where your cameras become more proactive than reactive.
Great.
But it's using that existing system that's already there. Most districts already have cameras and card access in place, but we need to be more proactive, using them for proactive means instead of just reactive.
Yeah, the two things I think about the bigger systems when I listen to this part of our convo is the need for ongoing training, right?
Oh, yeah.
We need new staff to understand what the culture is around safety. What is that expectation of us using that technology, modeling it for the kids, right? Because the kids are going to follow what we do.
And
go ahead.
I think for district leadership, we need more opportunities to just see demos of products and explore what's available to us. Because, you get calls from vendors and such, but I think we need more formal opportunities at some of our some of our conferences that
Yeah.
administrators are typically attending. If there were
Yeah.
more sessions, I don't see a lot of sessions on the conferences that
All
I
right.
routinely
Okay.
attend.
Well, duly noted. I'll keep that in mind for our
Yeah,
folks that
get
organize
yourself on Midwinter
our
or
annual safety center conference
yes,
too. Okay.
yes.
Yeah, for sure.
But even I don't attend that one.
Hmm.
The annual school safety center, my staff does, but
Okay.
there are other ones that your top district leadership
Yeah.
attend.
Right.
So if there are people who can get on those programs and offer sessions, you could get your top leaders in there to learn more.
Exposed to it.
So you really otherwise you're really, it's really left to each district to figure out what they want to explore and implement in their communities.
I love that you also mentioned you've talked to other districts. Texas is so big. Most of our districts are rural districts, and I think they get isolated. And especially in the conversation around school safety, threat assessment, and the technology that's used, we always push our districts, hey, go find a district that's your size in your area and ask them what they're doing.
Right.
Exchange numbers, have a conversation. I know there's a number of districts in Dallas that get together and just talk about their practices to find a best practice that they can all adopt together. So I love that you did that with that district in Houston, just to see what's out there, right?
Yeah. What are you doing, right? Have you had any issues, and what systems are you using? And you help each other.
Yeah.
And that's the goal.
Well, just being a lifelong learner, right?
That's right.
Yeah, that's right.
And
That's right.
This job is hard enough. You can't do it by yourself. You need
That's
everybody
right.
else and their experiences too.
Yeah. The other piece I hear is, and I'm going to explore this a bit in my next episode, we have the technology, but our kids are smart. There's people in the world that are just a little smarter than us, and they're always going to find a way to hack the system to get ahead of it. It sounds like you guys have had that conversation, at least with maybe Evolve internally, of like, how are we hacking and gaming the system so that we're not allowing a weapon in or someone on campus that shouldn't be? Has that been a formal conversation?
It was a conversation that I had with the Evolve group, and one of the things is their particular systems are not on our network. They offer a cellular system inside of it, so it is totally on their own network. They provide their own systems and protections, and the actual security part of their technology it's incredible. It really is good. But the fact that it's not on our network doesn't allow anybody to see it. So even our kids are, they're pretty ingenuitive. They can do whatever. They have a lot more trial and error time, that they can try to get into things, and to them it's a game, but when they can't see it at all, then it's not available for them to play with.
Yeah, that's fantastic. I like that way of looking at it. Okay, so we're getting close to the end of our conversation here. You're an early adopter. At least I would take y'all as an early adopter, at least here in Texas. What advice do you have for other Texas districts that might end up listening to this podcast that are considering adopting artificial intelligence? What's that advice?
Give us a call. We'll
come visit.
All right, I'll post your number.
Yes, I say go for it. If you can do it, do it.
Yeah.
And just call and see how people are doing it. And I just wouldn't be afraid of it. It's just it's just easy. Yeah. It's an easy implementation process, and it really is a game changer for us, and really sent a message that we are serious about security, and we care about our kids and our community, and there's absolutely no stigma that's associated with it that we found, and it just was so smooth, and we're really glad we did it.
Yeah. I feel like you guys are ahead of the curve here when you say it felt smooth, and I think that's the worry for districts. Like, this sounds a little too easy, right? But a few things that I've heard here is you have your district leadership, you have Jerry, your tech person, you had conversations with your board. It sounded like you talked to your students about this, your staff, your community. So I think there's some legwork that went into this, right? It just wasn't like, hey, let's all just do it.
Right.
You guys had some crucial conversations
with
your stakeholders in the school community and the larger Waco community to ensure that this is what we're all going to do together, right? Mm-hmm. So I really want to press upon our listeners on that this isn't just a head of tech and your superintendent saying, hey, we're going to do this, and the board's in, right? Like, there was a lot of combos that went into this.
Yeah, I think that's really important because we spent some time messaging what we were doing to our parents.
Great, yeah.
And we did that in written form to parents, but also did that publicly at board meetings just to make sure that everyone knew, this is what we're using. And just so it was just out there, right? That this is the way we're going with it.
And you have to remember that Dr. Kincannon's been doing this for a long time, so she knows what to do. And we were very fortunate to have her in a leadership role that she could guide us through that whole communication process with our community to get that going. Yeah. Same thing with doing the bonds that we did. I mean, the process that Dr. Kincannon laid out for us was pretty intensive. Now it's kind of like a duck on the water. We were moving, we were moving fast and furious underneath the water, and we were getting everything done. And logistically, it wasn't easy as it may have appeared. But we wanted everybody to make sure that they knew what was going on, and our board, especially managing the board to where they could really see the benefits was really a good thing.
And also, y'all had to rise to the occasion, right? You had some pretty intense moments late 2020, early this year. And so I think when districts are looking at this, you were also under a lot of pressure to perform, to find a solution that was satisfactory for the community while still being innovative. And so for those districts that aren't in that position, there's a little less pressure, right? And so just keeping in mind that you guys performed well under pressure here.
Yeah,
so
I appreciate that. I think, we, even without pressure, it's just so important that districts stay focused on safety and security. And for us, it's a weekly thing. We're in conversation every week about what's the next thing and what do we need to do to keep improving.
Yeah, and watching the state for what they're doing, what they're offering to, I think a lot of districts out there aren't watching as much about where this money can come from.
Yeah.
We're fortunate that we are watching it, and we're looking for grant money, and we're looking for the things that TEA and the state of Texas are offering us, and applying for them right away, and not just saying, "Oh, we'll get to it." Safety is a priority for Waco.
Sure. Yeah. Right. Yeah. I think we see this nationally. We wait till there's a tragedy, right?
Right.
Not that we're not doing anything, but that wake-up call tends to be a serious situation where lives are lost or people are hurt. Luckily, it was a hoax and finding the weapons before something could happen, right? And so
absolutely.
Letting that just kind of be that war cry for districts of like, hey, like, we did this under pressure. You can do this before you get to that situation, right?
Yeah, and we did it fast. We didn't wait till the next school year. We started at spring break. I mean, immediately. Yeah. Once we decided we've got to do this, we went for it.
Got to do it.
Right.
Yeah. Great.
We didn't wait for a budget cycle.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. But that's where having the leadership and the board behind you allows you to move faster.
Yeah.
It's
easy to sit and wait in the cycles, right? Well, next fiscal year, next calendar year, next school year, there's moments where you just have to act. And it may not be perfect, right? Like, I'm sure it wasn't a perfect implementation, but you have to do something, right?
Correct.
Yeah. I feel like we could keep talking forever about this, but I need to cut us short. Susan, Jerry, I super appreciate you guys coming down to the Learning Lab studio. Thank you for joining us, and thank you.
Thanks for having us. Appreciate it. Yes, thank you.